Okay.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Get your head together.
Shortest meeting ever.
Okay, we're out of here. Pack it up. Let's go.
Recording in progress.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Albany Revitalization Agency meeting on Wednesday, February 15th, 2023 at 5 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Member Johnson II.
Here.
Member Newton.
Here.
Member Novak. Member Montague.
Here.
Member Kopsinski.
Here.
Member McGee.
Present.
And Member Smith.
Here.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the election of a 2023 chair and vice chair. Now it's time to elect the chair and vice chair of the ARA for 2023. Let's open nominations. Are there any nominations for the position of chair?
I nominate Member Kopsinski.
Any other nominations?
I nominate Member Newton.
We have two folks that have been nominated. That's the first time that's happened. There's a lot of firsts, right? So we need to, is there a second for Newton?
I second.
Is there a second for Kopsinski?
Second.
Hey, there you go. So let's go with a vote. Is that correct, Seth? Where's Seth at? Right here. So we go ahead and do a vote now, right? Because we're both two nominations. Hey, this is the first for me too, so don't even worry about it. So we vote on
that's
both,
right. You can go ahead and vote.
So I have a motion and a second for Member Kopsinski. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
You can vote, you know.
Oh, I can. Okay.
Did you say aye or no?
We got a 3-2 thing here,
Oh.
so
So I'll say no.
let me offer a compromise. I'm going to say that one of these needs to be the chair and one needs to be the vice chair.
Okay,
I will
so
move it up.
let's go ahead and finish the vote.
Okay. I will withdraw my nomination for chair.
Because the nomination's been withdrawn. So we have to vote for you, though. We have to vote on you. We have a motion and second for Councilor Newton, agency member Newton, for chair. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed say no. Thank you. And since we have we have a motion to nominate.
I will move to nominate Member Kopsinski for vice chair.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. That's done. So Councilor, agency member Newton, come over here.
Okay. A heads up would have been nice, Jackie. Okay.
Get the rest of your stuff out of my spot.
I'm sorry. And I have like pictures of my kids, my water. I'm sorry.
Don't mind.
There's snacks in the drawer if you want any. Yeah, there's a little tiny drawer.
You want this?
Yes, please. Oh, all right. So let's go ahead with an approval of the minutes for both. Let's start with November 16th, 2022. Welcome, agency member Novak.
Sorry to be late. I've been on the phone with Comcast for 2 hours.
I move to approve the November 16, 2022 minutes.
I second. And third. I think that was Jackie as a second, or
Well-
Marilyn. I think everyone.
Pretty much.
All right. Any opposed? All right, so November 16th meeting minutes are approved.
I move to approve the November 28, 2022 minutes.
Second?
Seconded by Ray Kopczynski. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's move forward with agenda item number 5, which is business from the public. Did we have anyone sign up over on the sheet? Anyone from the audience that wanted to come forward? All right, hearing none. Let's move forward with agenda item number 6, which is to award GMP amendment to the CMGC contract for ST 2208 waterfront improvements. Sherry, did you want to bring that forward?
I sure do. That's me.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I know. I'm hiding over here on the side. What a monumental understatement, waterfront improvements. We probably could have improved the agenda there a little bit on that title, but I want to say a few words, and Stacey Belcastro is going to say a few words this evening, but really the purpose of tonight's meeting, the lion's share of our time is going to be, as you noted, to approve the GMP 1 for the waterfront project. I don't know if y'all can believe it, but 4 years of hard work and we're to construction phase of this project finally. It's pretty great to see how much progress has been made, how much community input has been taken into account here, how many previous plans have been used. It's really a culmination of a lot of work. As I mentioned, Stacey Belcastro is going to say a few words. I want to just also introduce Nick Osborne. He's on our engineering team overseeing from the city side the construction of this project. And then Carrie and Chris from K&E have joined us as well, available for questions. They're the firm who have the CMGC contract. I'll just say a few words about a background on this project, but let me note that it's the single largest project in the history of the city. I confirmed that with a few staff. Even combining the fire and police stations, it's still larger than that from a dollar perspective, and certainly this touches a lot more of visible parts of the city. It's really over 20 years in the making. And again, I won't cover everything, and this is in part for the newer counselors. We've had a chance to meet with most of you and kind of get you up to speed, but I thought I'd share just a couple of highlights and give you all any chances you need to ask any questions. So moving on here, just touching on a few things. The design phase of this project really has been, like I said, over 20 years. Even as we moved into having a design and engineering consultant to really bring this project to fruition in terms of design, they were charged with incorporating 7 plans that have been developed, touching different parts of this project over the years. We have had 3 public open houses. We had to adapt and do some online over the last couple of years. There's been over 2,000 points of input from the public. That's a lot if you've tracked these projects very closely. Again, far more than any other project that we've ever seen. Like I said, it touches lots of different plans. A couple critical decision points that might be of interest to you. In 2018, the ARA decided to move forward in pursuing this and a couple other larger development projects, and at that time discontinued the grants and loan programs that had been used for primarily building restorations at that time. There had been a lot of time and effort put into those projects, and they wanted to focus both resources and staff time on this waterfront project. 2019, we had a competitive process and entered into a contract with Walker Macy to do the design and engineering work. That included over 13 subconsultants as well to get that project delivered. 2021, final design was presented to the community, and in 2022, through a competitive bidding process, we entered into this CMGC contract with K&E, and construction is able to start here really in the next month or two. Here, many of you have seen this quite a few times, probably just kind of an overview of the project. I really don't need to go into that too much, probably. I think we're all probably fairly aware of the major highlights of this project. Maybe to share a few: playground and splash pad in the path, or in the park, paths and new lighting, parking lot renovations, entry plaza to the waterfront community center and the park itself. There's going to be brush clearing and bank restoration, visibility and safety improvements, pedestrian-friendly and ADA improvements throughout the entire project, a plaza street with pavers and trees and all so forth, new sidewalks, tree plantings, and traffic calming measures along Water Avenue. This next visual, though, you might appreciate. This highlights in red and blue the actual parts of the project we anticipate will see construction this year. There are some limitations with cost of the project and how many funds have been directed towards it by the ARA. And so with the current budgeting, sections of Water Avenue itself won't be completed, but the critical pieces of intersections, rail crossings, and the Plaza Street certainly will be. Let me just say a word or two about the construction phase of this and why we chose to do it, or why you, the ARA, chose to do it this way. We are in the CMGC. Well, engineers would call it a project delivery method. Does that sound right? Yeah. Okay, and so in layman's terms, we essentially are using K&E to manage both the construction of the project, like we would do in-house for smaller projects, and act as the general contractor there, but they've also had a chance in this pre-planning phase, which you can see, or pre-construction phase up on the screen, to review the plans, look for cost savings measures, line up consultants, start thinking about subcontractors, get materials ready, and that sort of thing. In the same phase, they also generated what we're going to be reviewing tonight. In a minute, I'll hand it over to Stacy, and that is GMP, or guaranteed maximum price, for the first phase of the project. After this evening, well, they've already started on GMP2. So GMP1 really encompasses the park improvements and the Dave Clark path, and GMP2 will be the Water Avenue improvements. They happen at different times for a couple of reasons. They're kind of different in their nature, but construction will happen simultaneously. So even though we're thinking about it in two phases, really construction will happen simultaneously. And GMP2 should be ready probably by April for you to review and approve at that point. So with that, let me just say one last thing, Stacy. Prior to construction starting, I don't know if it'll be to all construction starting, but in the early phases at least, we'll plan another public open house to talk about timing, impacts, and that kind of thing. I think we'll also maybe organize a groundbreaking ceremony of some kind as well. It probably warrants that. So again, happy to answer questions, but Stacy, if you want to talk about GMP1, I'll turn the time to you.
Thank you, Seth. So I think I've spoken in front of all of you, but my name is Stacy Belcastro, and I work in the Public Works Engineering Department. I don't want to go backwards, but I do want to. It's discussed in the memo, but so we refer to CMGC, but what that stands for is Construction Manager General Contractor. I always like to define my acronyms. It's the engineer in me. I can't help it. And then I do want to point out, so it was about a year ago that, not quite a year ago, that we came in front of you with the recommendation to use CMGC to deliver the waterfront project. It was just a good fit for the project based on its complexity, based on supply chain issues that we continue to deal with, and then also uncertainties with the rising cost of construction. So K&E was hired. The CMGC has two distinct phases. They have the pre-construction phase, and then at the accumulation of the pre-construction phase, we come to you with what's called a guaranteed maximum price. During the pre-construction phase, K&E worked with the city and with the design consultant. They reached out to subcontractors and suppliers, vendors. They solicited bids, and they used all of this to provide real-time pricing to figure out how much the project was going to cost. So GMP, guaranteed maximum price, what that is it sets a maximum price, it caps what the construction contract is going to be. So the CMGC contractor, K&E Excavating, they're guaranteeing that they can construct the Monteith Park improvements for the GMP that's identified in the staff memo of $8,361,669, and don't forget the 89 cents. I do want to point out that, because this isn't discussed in the memo, but this is a very transparent method. It's all open book. So all of the information that K&E received from the people that provided pricing, we were able to review that. The design consultant, city staff reviewed the information. We also hired a cost estimating contractor to complete a peer review in order to truth and make sure that we were getting the right price. Maybe go to the slide 6, I think,
Yeah.
Seth.
How about that?
Perfect. Okay. So this slide shows attachment 1, which is included with the staff memo. This attachment shows the limits of GMP 1 and GMP 2, and then the legend also lists some of the major work items that fall under GMP 1, the Monteith Park package, and GMP 2, which is the Water Avenue package. K&E recommended these 2 GMP packages because by accelerating Monteith Park, they are able to construct the project in one construction season. The park project has materials with long lead times, and then there's also restrictions that come with working adjacent to the river. And then the other thing, let's see, that's separating these two, when they, in their proposal, I guess I should point out, K&E didn't think that they would be able to construct the entire project in construction season, but by going through this pre-construction phase process and accelerating the Monteith improvements, they are able to do this. There, I guess I should mention, there are still uncertainties. There's railroad crossing work, and then there's also franchise utility work. This work is being coordinated with the city project, but it is being completed by others. And so, so there are those uncertainties, but we are working actively with them to partner on completing the project. If ERA authorizes the GMP 1 amendment, then construction of the Monteith project hopefully will be starting in April and substantially completed by December. K&E is working on developing the GMP 2 package for the Water Avenue right-of-way improvements. We hope to be in front of you again in a few months, asking that you authorize that, and that work will be coordinated, and as Seth said, it will be basically happening at the same time as the park project. It's being completed under the same CMGC contract. And with that, staff's recommendation is that the Albany Revitalization Agency authorize by motion the GMP amendment to the CMGC contract with K&E Excavating in the amount of $8,361,669.89 for construction of the Monteith Park improvements. And I'm available for any questions if you have any.
All right, opening up for questions, and it looks like Alex Johnson has the first question.
So the question I have is, I see the number 15 million down here, but when we originally approved this allocation, it was 16.9. Is that part of this number still, or is that like a reserve?
The total project budget is 16.2 million, I believe. 1.2 million of that is water capital funds, and those funds are being directed to construct the water line that's going to be happening with the GMP 2 package.
But the ARA, we authorized 16.9.
Yeah, that's right. If that was the exact number, it was somewhere in that neighborhood. You're correct. And Gina could give you the exact details on that, but it had to do with packaging the debt, some of the service costs, and I actually think that we built in the some of the costs for the CMGC contract with that as well. It wasn't committed at that time to spend all that either, but it had to do with the rates that the bank was giving us and the amounts. We don't have to spend that all, and there's no prepayment penalty for getting it back either. So it's there in the bank, though.
All right, thank you.
First question, do you foresee any other risks besides the risk that you listed? Like major risks? I understand there's a million little risks, but.
I promised Kayani I wouldn't bring them up here to talk, but I really do think, I mean, the risks that we have been talking about are related to coordination with the railroad and the franchise utilities.
Okay. And then what is your confidence in getting those long lead time items on time?
Very confident.
Okay.
That's a great question, member. Lead time's a wonderful word. Go ahead.
Any other questions?
I do have one question. And you might not be the right one to ask, but overall, 16.9 million, is that the entire amount of money that we are spending on this? That's including everything? That's
So, Councilor Novak, or agency member Novak in this case, 15 million was the number budgeted for construction, but there are soft cost, design, engineering, and so there are in addition to that. So it really, in total, if numbers stuck exactly as they were now, I can get you an exact number, but you might recall the whole design engineering contract, I think was 1.6 million. So it's in that ballpark, and we can tally it up exactly. I know we do keep track of that, but the idea is construction sticks around $15 million.
okay. I just was wondering, since we mentioned 16.9 that was approved, if that was inclusive of everything from the plans to.
Yeah, and that was the borrowing authority when we worked
Yeah.
with the bank to make a borrow for the project, correct?
So there will be no like cost overruns and all that with guaranteed maximum price, having had experience with contracting things in the past and not getting stuff in writing that says you go over.
Yeah, that's really
Yes,
the
that sort of thing.
huge benefit of the GMP process is that transparency and guarantee. That doesn't mean that you as a ARA could not direct additional funds at it, because just recall, there's more in here than $50 million can pay for. So should you want to do additional elements that are not included but were designed, such as other blocks of Water Avenue, for example, you need to direct additional funds at it. But that $15 million is the number that we're working with and under currently.
And that covers what we just saw on the screen, not the whole 9 yards, but this part and this part 1 and part 2. All those other things are not in the 16.9 million and would require additional funding. I guess part of my question is, where would that funding come from? Or do we just say, we did the best we could, here's the money we have,
Yeah.
this is what you get?
Yeah, well, I think what we'll want to do with all of you, and I'd suggest before you think, that there will be some additional funds you could direct at this project. With the delivery of GMP2, we'll have an exact accounting of how much, is available. The way that the budgeting process has worked all along here is we've known there's some squishy numbers, so we've had to work with round numbers. But actually, at the tail end of this TIF district, is what we're approaching now. And with the GMPs in place, we'll have some hard numbers to work with should you choose to dedicate some more resources to this project, for example. But that won't happen until after GMP2. So really, it'll be this spring, later this spring.
Yeah, when the GMP2 is developed, we'll know how much additional funds are available, and we could come before the agency with options if you choose to expand the project and construct more improvements in Water Avenue, or there are also alternates in the park itself that you could consider adding to the project.
Another question?
You have another question?
Yes. So question I have is, will we be going after any additional grant monies, state available monies, or federal monies for this project?
Yeah, we've taken a real hard swing at that this last year. Timing's a little tricky at this point, and so I think we had a grant recently for about $75,000. There are a few that we're waiting to hear on. Maybe we'll get lucky there. We've also been working with the parks team on some potential donors around elements of the project to help offset costs and make the dollars go a little bit further. So maybe we'll have some good announcements. But really at this point, we had a list of 22 grants, potential grants. We've exhausted the vast majority of those. And on the federal side, I actually spent a lot of time with the federal EDA, the Economic Development Administration, who would typically fund projects of this nature. It did not fit in their funding from this last few years. There was a lot of hard misses, actually. We explored 5 different grant avenues with them that would have been sizable dollars, but none of them really worked with the nature of this project, unfortunately.
I have one quick question. I didn't see on here, I saw that the city's covering the cost of the permit fees and system development charges. Did you have a hard number on that?
Yeah, we can get that because those have already been done for the most part. We've gone through permitting over the last 2 years. All are in place and have been paid for. So we can tally it up and let you see it. But that falls under the soft cost to Councilor Novak's question earlier as well.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions? Ramicia? Oh, Member
Hear me?
McGee?
Okay.
Apologize.
Just roll back 1 second. You said that you did apply for federal EDI funds. Is that what you're saying? You said you missed it?
No, we spoke with the Economic Development Administration, the EDA, about a round of grants that they had available last year. None were a real fit. In fact, it was quite frustrating. They had a bunch of money. They thought they were going to have a bunch of money from the federal, not the CARES Act. It was the one after that. Which one was that? ARPA funds. And they said, gosh, we're going to have so much money, we don't know what to do with it. Apply. So we started talking, and at the end of the day, they got a third of what they were anticipating. They were highly oversubscribed, and our project wasn't really a good fit anyhow. So,
Do you plan to go back and apply again when that season is open?
but no.
No.
We're in construction phase now. And in fact, the lead time for those EDA grants was multiple years. They needed written opinions from multiple agencies on all sorts of stuff. And they wanted to manage construction as well, which wasn't a fit in this case either.
It's not a fit.
No.
So I move to approve the, staff recommends, I move to approve the GMP1 contract as written for $8,361,699.89.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I feel mixed still. I'm sorry. But I have to, you can't, that's not an answer. You can't say mixed. So,
It is, you can do an abstention.
Pardon?
You can abstain to vote. That is within Robert's rules.
Thank you for that reminder. You know what? I think maybe it's just the day I've had, but I'm going to abstain. Thank you.
All right, well, congratulations. We have awarded the GMP amendment to the GMGC contract for ST 2208 waterfront improvements. Thanks.
Thank you, Stacy. Thanks, Sean.
That's quite the tongue twister. All right, so let's move forward with item number 7 on our agenda. Do we have any staff updates?
Yeah, I'll just give you a quick one. The Wells Fargo demo project is well underway. They've been doing environmental remediation for a few weeks now. At the very last minute, they were digging up the entryway and found under about 3 inches of concrete some asbestos tiles, so that slowed things down a little bit. But they're set to start actual demo of the building the week of the 27th. So like 2 weeks, next week, week and a half. And it should take 4 to 5 weeks for a full demo, and then they're filling the pit and packing it all down and all that kind of thing as well.
So question, have the local executive director, has the businesses been notified that the project is starting?
Have the businesses?
Businesses downtown that will be impacted by that, have they been notified?
I'll have to look. I don't know. The actual demo permitting was done through our department. Yes, okay. Yep, we've done it through. I wasn't sure how far the net was cast, Lisa. Thanks for confirming.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, sir.
And I'll just note, since Lisa's here as well, that actually is convenient because we can offset any impacts to waterfront parking during construction, utilizing some of that space as well in the interim period. So it's kind of nice to have that offset. There'll be a nice big flat space there to utilize while we're doing construction.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, so next item, let's move forward with business from the agency. Ramicia, did you have anything? I apologize.
Sorry.
Agency member McGee, I apologize.
No, I don't.
Nothing tonight.
Okay.
I have nothing.
Okay. No?
Well, actually, I do have something. We've talked about this, I've talked about this with Peter and the staff. We allocated, how much did we originally allocate for the Wells Fargo building?
You got to ask me these questions beforehand. I don't keep these numbers filed.
I think
very well.
it was around $2.5 million.
Yeah, that's about right. 2.3.
So we're
is the number that comes to mind.
we're spending $3 million or $300,000, $400,000 on the demo, right? And so I would like to discuss opening up $1 million of that money that was allocated for a few projects. I think it's a show of goodwill for the city and lets them know that we're caring about the other projects in the city because that money was set aside from the Wells Fargo project. I think it's we should look at it.
So there'd still be like $1 million and some change just floating out there too?
It's just over $1 million something, yeah, $1.5 million or something like that. But if we can open up $1 million for a few projects, give them 30 days, 40 days to get them to us, we can take a look at them. I think it's a great idea, personally.
I agree.
Agency member Kopsinski?
Yes, if we are opening it up, then I will suggest that we don't know what the final costs are going to be for the waterfront project. Those are yet to come. And until, if and when those come in as we expect, and if there is something left over, I would then recommend that we use those dollars to backfill items that we whacked out of this process over the years. I think the long-range results for the community would be better doing that.
Well, to Commissioner Johnson's point, I think there is a certain amount of goodwill to be had because honestly, the waterfront, you could we're pouring 16.9 and you could pour 60.9 million. You could, it's a never ending, there's no end of money that we could dump into the waterfront and improving all manner of things that 16.9 million probably won't cover. So if I'm understanding you correctly, looking at some things that were kind of cut out because the money was going to Wells Fargo, if all of that money isn't taken up in the demolition, which it's not, I think that's a better idea because honestly, like I said, there's no end of money. The waterfront could suck up another 16.9 million, no problem. And I would rather consider some of these things that were told no, since Wells Fargo isn't using every last penny, quite honestly.
I want to mention also, we did just hear that we have a guaranteed maximum price. And Seth, you can confirm we were dealing with some squishy numbers and there might be money left over. We're dealing with something around. So I feel that agency member Johnson's suggestion was actually quite conservative, only allocating 1 million from the 2 point something and holding a reserve of over $1 million just in case things were squishy in the wrong direction. Seth, did you have a comment?
Yeah, well, we may be oversimplifying the math a little bit. And again, when I said round numbers, I was hearkening back to about 3 or 4 years ago saying, ARA, what are your priorities? And a few of those priorities were demonstrated in actual projects. And we put some rough numbers to each one of those based on best known information at the time. The waterfront project will not come in under 15. We're trying to build as much as possible within those bounds. But there are to Councilor Kopsinski's point, significant portions that have had to been trimmed back over time that were originally envisioned could be complete during this planning and design process because $15 million doesn't go as far as it did, 10 or 20 years ago. So there are designed, engineered, and ready to go aspects of this project that we know within the current bounds cannot be built. And so that's what in the GMP process they're trying to figure out how much can be built with the funds available. But as I noted earlier, by probably April, we'll have hard numbers around that, and you'll also have a hard understanding of what you're saying no to, what's not getting built, which portions of Water Avenue don't get done. So you'll have a better sense later this spring.
Sounds great. Do you want to move forward with a motion?
I make a motion that we allocate $1 million for a few additional projects.
I'll second that.
And reserve, oh. Of course.
Sure.
So when the ARA board decided to close its grants and loans program, there were other considerations as well, not just funding, but it was also staff time. So if you are going to consider opening up grants and loans again, number one, to be fair, you'd have to open it to all applicants. You can't just choose. Number two, you'd have to acknowledge then that staff would be devoted towards opening up this program once again, which is no small endeavor. Much of what which took their time before was administering that program. So when the ARA board decided to stop that, it was to focus all of our attention as an agency on the 3 remaining projects. So in a sense, you will be going a little bit backwards by taking this step, if the decision is to do that.
And I just need to add, Peter, if I might, in the past, as funds have been made available for certain types of programs and different forms of funding, grants, forgivable loans, and loans, there's pretty hard criteria around those. What are you hoping to accomplish? Who can meet that criteria? What are timelines for that? What are the bounds for the funding? What kind of interest rates are applied? It's not an overnight decision. And I, just having been a part of those for some time, just I want to give you that, that heads up as well. It's not quick. And we do that because we're transparent, right? And the funds should be equally available to anyone who can apply for those funds.
Yeah, I absolutely believe in equity and everyone having access. We shouldn't cherry pick any projects. And I know that we, like previous ARA board did decide to sunset. That was with the understanding that this money was being allocated towards the Wells Fargo project. I think with the change in the Wells Fargo project, I think that leaves a lot to question. I feel like this is a valid, this motion has a lot of weight, especially as someone who, my property taxes have gone to this TIF. This is something that my own property taxes have gone towards. So personally speaking, I think that it sounds like a solid idea. So I think that we have a motion on the floor.
I seconded it.
All right. So does everyone understand? Okay. All right. Motion on the floor to allocate $1 million from the Wells Fargo project, and I apologize, I don't have the exact number, but 1 million and some change as kind of like a rainy day buffer fund.
Well, we'll need some clarity on what that means, setting it aside. What sort of program are you talking about? Is it loans? Is it grants? What's the intention of it? We can't just set it aside without a little bit of guidance. So maybe it's something you want to table or talk about now, but we'll need to be more specific.
I do think that we should table it. I would like
Okay.
to see what the hard numbers will be in April. I just feel like jumping ahead and allocating something and not knowing. I like to see the numbers first. So if we can get the hard numbers by April, then maybe we can have this conversation come back up again after that. But I don't comfortably feel like we should set something aside without knowing the hard numbers.
All right, so that sounds good. So we will await to hear the hard numbers. So did you want to remove your motion?
I'll remove my motion at this point.
Okay, thank you. And then, all right, so we'll go ahead and wait for the hard numbers. So what's the date that we'll have that estimate?
It's going to depend on when GMP2 is ready, and we anticipate a month or two. I don't want to hold you guys' feet to the fire. It's not exactly an easy process. And just as a reminder, when we got GMP1, we actually took that through a whole third-party review too to make sure that we were totally comfortable before bringing that to you. So I would anticipate April, but don't throw rocks through my window if it's a month later. We'll do our best to deliver.
Well, as long as they're accurate, please take the time because we don't want you to rush and mess it up.
Thank you for that.
We need make sure it's accurate and that it's concrete, and so that we can make a informed decision.
Yeah, and I would suggest not just bringing the GMP to guaranteed maximum price, but also all other monies that we're talking about here, so that we
Yep.
can, and can we get that ahead of time? I know whenever you get the hard numbers, but before the meeting would be helpful, so we can digest that beforehand.
Yeah, that would be in the packet, absolutely.
Thank you, Seth.
And I'd like to know what we allocated for the Rhodes Block and St. Francis and what we originally allocated for the Wells Fargo. And since we made the change to demo, of those funds, what of those funds could we possibly use?
Sure.
Grants or, yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic. So I guess we're holding your feet to the fire. So thank you.
Done.
Appreciate you doing that.
that's what we're here for.
Okay. All right, and I didn't have any additional business as well. Okay, so it looks like the last item on our agenda is to mention that our next meeting date is March 15th, 2023. Same time, same place. And with that,
I don't anticipate we'll have a March meeting. It's typically a placeholder, the third Wednesday, but pending GMP2, March is not going to happen. So I'm pretty confident we'll not have a meeting then, okay?
okay, so maybe in April.
Yeah, April.
All right, fantastic. Next meeting TBD. All right, and with that, we're adjourned.